My relationship with money has, the fear of not having has fueled me to success, but the fear of not having it has always remained.
Welcome to the Growth House Podcast. I am your host, Jesse Ray. I am here with Brian North. Brian, there's so many things that we can talk about. We just literally, before we started recording, talked about some huge news that just happened. But before we get to that, I got to ask you, because I saw on Instagram, and I'm someone that likes to hike as well. I see that you're a big hiker. Did you get on the trail this morning?
Did not get on the trail this morning. I ran this morning, a little street run. I was a little short on time, more than I usually was. A little 3-mile run just to get the blood flowing. But I hiked 2 days ago with some buddies. If you're familiar with Camelback Mountain, anybody's been around the area, usually I do Echo Canyon. It's my favorite walk. And a buddy of mine that actually base jumps off of Camelback took me to his little secret base jumping spot, and we went and did that. And then for anyone who knows the spot where you grab the pole and go up, he and my other buddy Mike, they raced up and down it 3 times. So I was with a different cast that day, but didn't make it up there today.
Man, yeah, Camelback's no joke. Like people say, like, oh yeah, Camelback is easy, especially in the summer. Yep. Man. Have you ever seen the people that go barefoot and do Camelback?
I have, yes. There was a guy up there the other day when I was up there that was barefoot. I like it. I believe in grounding. You know what I mean? I also have a lady that is at home and she doesn't really like gorilla feet in the bed. So, it's like it doesn't really work. No barefoot for me.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. And then I saw micro adventure. I just want to ask you, Brian, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's funny. When we jumped on together, you talked about, having some fun traveling lately. And, micro adventure for me is the life I built, the responsibility that I had until recently didn't allow for me to do, big adventure. I'm an adventurer by nature. I want to be outside, and there's some depth to why I'm an adventurer, the way that I was raised and brought up and things like that. But because I'm an adventurer and because my responsibility level was, at a certain, by design, it disallowed me for me to do macro adventures. And so micro adventures are really important. And that might be exploring unique and new and fun different parts of Arizona, getting to Southern California, parts of Southwest Colorado, cruising up to Utah, and then, I've done some week-long off-grid surf trips to the East Cape, which is the east side of the peninsula of Baja. Things like that, really just doing a lot of different things, short heli trips or cat ski trips, really in the western half of the United States, but not allowing myself to make excuses, because of my responsibility level to really do the things that I want to do. So really still able to live a big life, but for now, keep it in short windows of time and in close proximity.
And before we, talk about the big thing that's happened this last week, and maybe, you're able to do more macro adventures, I just kind of want to give people a little bit of background on you. So, Brian, everyone knows you here in Arizona when it comes to real estate. Very well known and respected, founder of the real estate firm North & Co. You and your team has helped buyers and sellers over 14,000 homes.
Yeah.
It's a big number right there. Yeah. Totaling over $7 billion of real estate, paid out $173 million in commissions, sought after speaker, personal development expert. You went viral on School of Hard Knocks interview. You're a dad of 2. Brian, what did I miss before we mentioned the big thing that happened this week?
What did you miss? I'm madly in love with my fiance, Nancy Gonzalez. We're getting married January 25th of 25. It's definitely probably the most exciting part of my life right now. Just having somebody to love and someone that loves me the way that she does. It's really special. She's brought a unique vibrancy to our home. I have boys that are 16 and 13, and it's just really created, as much as I've been conditioned to go out into the world and travel, for the first time in 47 years, I'm excited to be home. So it's been a really unique and important shift in my life, and that'd be the one thing I would be proud to add to that list.
I love it. Well, drop the news, Brian. Drop the news.
The news is, so as stated, I was the founder, that was weird. It's the first time I said that, was the founder of the local independent real estate brokerage, North & Co. And on last Tuesday, don't know the date in my mind at this point. It feels like time is not reality right now. Launch Real Estate, the number 1 independent luxury brand in the state of Arizona, and North & Co., the number 2 independent luxury brand in the state of Arizona, decided to merge, relinquish their independent names, under the brand of Compass nationally. So Compass Arizona is now official. And we're now officially the number one production per agent brokerage in the state of Arizona. And I think in the top three now, no matter what your numbers are, I think the number one and number two brokerages have more than 2,000 agents. We're number three and we have 500. So high productivity, a lot of business acumen, a lot of legends in the business. I'm excited to be standing next to them and running as a peer now. It's exciting times.
Man, it's congrats first of all. It's amazing.
I appreciate it.
Brian, what was the first, like, once everything kind of went through and you're like, wow, I just, sold this. What was your initial like emotions?
And it was really weird, to be honest, Jesse. I a bunch of things I didn't expect. That night I went home and I went into a natural state of fight or flight. I kind of freaked out a little bit. It wasn't like panic, but it was like, I grew up really tough and, a young single mom, and we had nothing. I mean, we were homeless often, not homeless like in the street homeless, but like didn't have a place to sleep and calling people to try and find a place to crash. And it was a very normal part of my life. So my relationship with money has, the fear of not having has fueled me to success, but the fear of not having it has always remained, right? It's been this kind of antagonistic thing that I've kind of battled with. And no matter how much money I had, I always pretend like I don't have any because I'm afraid if I have it and spend it, that, it's going to go away. And so interestingly, I've done a lot of work, a lot of therapy around my relationship with money. And I would have said to you 3, 6, 8 months ago, like, I'm good. Like, dude, I've done it. I've conquered that beast. And the first thing that happened was I went home that night and I sat down and I was feeling kind of anxious. And I called Nancy into the room, my office, and we sat in the office and I was like, hey, we should really just consider like buckling down and like revising the budget. And I went into this whole money thing again, which is so weird considering, I just closed a big deal, and it was a really unique thing. And I caught myself, I can even feel my chest right now, like getting a little bit tight, it's only been a week. And I caught myself and I told her, I was like, listen, don't listen to anything I'm about to say. This is just a young boy emoting right now. Like there's a lot that comes with the decision and the lead up of, how people are going to perceive it. And are they going to really know what I did behind the scenes to protect everybody? And, all the fear of letting people down and then not knowing, what I'm going to do for that silo of income, which is something I've relied on for 10 years, starting immediately, effective immediately. And so it was a really weird set of emotions that I went through. I went through a bit of mourning. There was kind of a funny moment. I came to the back door at our office building and punched my code in and it didn't work. And I was like, dude, they already like, and it's not how it went, but it was like that feeling. I'm asking like, where do you guys need me? Where do you need me? I want to help because all my partners were inundated and we're such a unit, you know what I mean? And they were kind of looking to their new boss, for guidance. And I mean, within 24 hours, like they didn't need me. And, I'm used to being needed in this ecosystem, you know what I mean? So it was a really unique set of emotions. And it took me probably 3 days to really work through it and just listen to what was going through my mind and what was going through my body and really be curious about like, man, where is that coming from? And what in my life has inspired me to be reacting this way? And just really playing a game with self, right? I mean, I made the decision. So nothing external to me was responsible for the way I was feeling. And it was a really interesting thing to navigate, especially with my partner who's used to seeing me really just pretty joy filled and overall taking things in stride, no matter how good or bad they are. She saw something come up that I haven't seen in several years that was really unique. So yeah, it was an interesting set of days. And then ultimately, I think on that third or fourth day in the morning, I practiced breath work regularly, and I had about a 1 hour breath work session where I went, really deep and really got free from kind of the futurizing and the past arising of, what wasn't real, and just got really centered and kind of had an emotional release, cried my face off that wasn't really attached to fear or anger or, anything. It was just a release of energy that had been built up in my body. And since that moment, kind of going forward now, it started to feel light. We had almost of our 275 agents, we had almost 200 agents transfer their licenses to Compass in the first 48 hours. That was a huge win for me, just to go, okay, the majority of our people feel we've picked right for them, right? They're going to a place that's either equal or better in their mind. And so that was helpful. And as that's happened, the light has I'm starting to lighten a little bit.
What was the hardest part? Was it the fact that, because I'm sure you get a lot of fulfillment from going there, being needed, you're providing value, and now you might have like a little gap there, like, okay, what do I do now? How do I fulfill that, whole of me being able to provide value? But then also you probably have, that thought process of, dang, I have all these people under my leadership and I got to make sure that they're going to be okay at their next, step in their journey. What was the harder part? Was there something else?
Yeah, there's two analogies that I'm going to share with you. One was in that first when it got serious prior to the actual event, right? In that last 5 months, the emotional process for any of your viewers was like what I can imagine a parent who's giving their child up for adoption would feel like. It's this feeling of like, I love this thing so much with all my heart and all my soul, but I have to come to terms with a conversation of, am I the best parent for this child? Or is there a better home, a better family that can nurture and take care of this child better than I can? And the feeling that moment where the separation happens, where you hand over your baby and trust that you've done everything you can on the front end in terms of your vetting, your question asking, your meeting with leadership. Is there alignment? Is there enough of a holistic approach to the agent that's going to be synonymous with what it is that we feel like we've done in the business? That is the simplest way for me to distill down the hardest part, which was it for anybody who's ever felt that pain, of having to make that decision. That's what it felt like for me, right? It was really difficult emotionally. My name's on the side of the building, so it's my grandfather who's passed and who was my mentor. His company was named after North, and that legacy carried. That thing ends, the day that this thing ends. The second one, from a difficult perspective, is that you think about captain on a ship, and I'll use Titanic because most of us have seen the movie. But what I can share with you that is absolute fact is if you are deep-seated and rooted in leadership ability and quality, then you come last. It just is what it is. And so there was never a moment, never, ever a single moment up until the moment of closing where I was like, man, I'm doing this. This is the thing. This is, I'm so proud of myself, I can't, no celebration. You know what I mean? Every single decision. And by the way, guess when it was the hardest? The last 48 hours was when things were the hardest. So there was never a release of like, oh, this is the moment where it's done. We're good. Non-refundable earnest. We can cruise to close. No, that's not at all how it was. I mean, there were nervous, tenuous moments throughout the entire thing up until, we signed at, 11 at night on Monday last week. It was like a sign and close type situation. So that part of like, I imagine I'm going to have 2 months now of self, where now that I've done my job, I've gotten everybody to safety, so to speak, as the leader of the ship. I'm going to be able to take some time and kind of decompress and really work through all of what I was processing and getting to that ultimate decision.
As I mentioned earlier, we have two sets of audience, and one set of our audience is actually in that same type of position or just sold a company as well. So I'm sure they can relate to these emotions that are going on. Another part of our audience, which, I was maybe a year ago, was like, man, I would never think of like building a business and selling. That just seems so like big. And I'm like, I just want passive income through real estate. But now I'm more thinking on that type of level. And so I'm curious, did you have that initial thought going in building this real estate firm that, hey, I want to reverse engineer this and I want to make sure it's set up to be able to be sold at some point?
Not emotionally. Emotionally, I didn't ever think we were going to sell, right? However, have a spectacular emotionless CFO. and her job, really she was masterful in making sure that we were preparing the business for sale should that time come. So, you guys can hear the lesson in that. I think it's pretty straightforward is, hire people with different skill sets than you to prepare you for where you're blind. And for me, I'm a creator, right? I feel like I have an artist mind. For me, I'm a visionary. My eyes kind of roll back in my head. I can see in all kinds of different color schemes, and I can put unique, ideations into reality and make them happen. But then I need executors to make them happen. Spreadsheets, I just don't, they're not in my DNA. But she was really masterful in making sure that from the minute go that we were considering, even when I was making crazy, ambitious, emotional decisions, that she would always question or position dialogue around, if we do this, it's going to hurt us 2-3 years down the road. And my thing would be, I hear you on this one, but let's push down on the gas pedal. I'm trying to make money today.
I hear you on that. I think it's a great lesson. Everyone needs that kind of integrator role in a business. A lot of us that are listening are probably more of the visionary, but you need that someone that can really be like, okay, that's great, Jesse, is great, Brad, but how do we actually make that happen? It sounds like she kind of was that role for you.
Oh, she more than that, by the way. But yeah, even just if it was emotion and emotionless, she was that for me, right? If you see yourself as an emotional leader, you probably need somebody to sit next to you who can, stay even keeled and keep the balance. If you had two of me in a room, there'd be a lot of excitement, a lot of ideas, and not very much would get done, if I'm being real. You know what I mean? And by the way, those ideas could change the world. We're just, the two of us in a room are going to probably halfway execute everything. You know what I mean? Because we're going to come up with a better idea and want to go and do that. So even if it just comes down to having people who are, have the ability to stay the course when you're being emotional, I think that's important.
For sure. Well, I got to ask you this question, Brian. I don't know if you've thought about it yet. You're like, I just got to make sure this goes through. Everything's lined up. But did you already have something in mind? Like, what's next for Brian North?
Yeah, for sure. About as it was kind of coming to a head, right? It was probably 2.5 months ago, July, August, this summer, 24. I sit down at my desk and I'm really trying to play this game of creativity, where a lot of the ways that I journal and I write business plans is very structured. And I got a big piece of white tag board that I put on my office desk. And when I'm there working and I have an idea about a future or something I want to do or an idea I might have, I just scribble it down. So it's this working board of mishmash of mess, right? And I walked in one afternoon and I sat down at my desk and it was like a big decompress from, busy afternoon. I was like, all right, what do I want to do? And I went through this pretty simple process of what would I do that I do every day in my real estate life for free? That's the natural question. And I was like, a few things sparked, right? I love teaching. I really love teaching. I love one-on-one coaching. I don't know that I love that from a business perspective yet, but I do love the connection and being able in a short amount of time to get somebody to challenge their own perspective and climb themselves to a potentially new level in a very short amount of time. And I've been fortunate to be able to do that. Keynote speaking, really platform speaking is something that just, I try to be a professional snowboarder for a lot of years. And when I left that life and I skated and I was just still surf. And when I kind of left that life from an everyday perspective, my real mission in life was, is there something I could find that I could do that would give me the same feeling that standing at the top of a big jump, getting ready to drop in and my jacket blowing in the wind, going as fast as I can, and that huck and just that freedom in the air and stomping and then being yeah, how could I replace that feeling? That search will never go away. Keynote speaking for me is that. That's that feeling, the run up, the backstage, that whole thing is standing at the top of the jump, running out there and the lights being in your face and you can't go back. That whole analogy for me is a very familiar one, and platform speaking for me it's what I love. It's what I'm destined to do. The question then became, what would I pay to do? So if I could design something and they would say, all right, an experience, but it's going to be work, right? Something I could monetize, but an experience that I could do where they're like, okay, what could we do that would feel like work that you do today that you would pay a big ticket check to do? And it really came down to public speaking, platform speaking. And I'm talking about big audiences, right? So for me, I wrote down on this piece of tag board, I'm the world's greatest public speaker. Now, It didn't mean that I believe I'm the world's greatest public speaker yet, right? What it was authorizing myself into the space of professional, right? So what does it mean to be a professional? Until now, I have talent. I'm a good public speaker. But in order to be a professional, you can't rely on talent. Like, you've got to go do a deep dive. You got to go study. You got to go like really analyze micro things like voice inflection and being able to pace your words and knowing when to stop when you drop a bomb on the audience, or waiting when people laugh, or too many hand gestures. I like to pace a lot. I get amped when I'm on stage. Like, when is it a time to sit down? When is it a time to stand up? Looking in a camera instead of looking at your face on the screen. Like, all these little things that are going to take attention, going and studying an audience before I get to the audience. Like, I know these are all things I've charted in the last 2 months, right? And it's because I'm authorizing myself into the place of being a professional. And that's an exciting thing. Like, if I want to be the best in the world, how deep am I really willing to go in order to get there? And it's not much what I did different in the brokerage business. The brokerage business just had a lot of things that ended up coming with it over time that I misread. I wasn't ready for them in a way. So for me, definitely, I want to launch some online coaching products, and I predominantly want to do that because I really love young people who want to get on in this world and build their financial wealth or their financial model around freedom, right? I want to help young people be free. There's so much depression, anxiety dialogue in the world, and depression and anxiety comes from the unknown of the future, right? It really does. I mean, like that, if we just lived in the present moment, most of us right now, we're perfectly fine. We just start to freak out when we think about how bad things might be tomorrow. And so for me, I've been through a lot of it. I live very young. I'm very active. I like young music, pop culture. I still skate, surf, snowboard, all those things. So for me, the low ticket barrier to entry, the online courses, is not because I can get rich. It's because I can touch a bigger audience of people who don't have the means potentially yet to be able to afford it, and hear it from an older, kind of figure that I think they'll be able to feel that I know their life. I'm not too far removed, and I went through hard enough shit in my life that they're not going to be able to fool me that they're going through something significantly worse. And I think I've got a real connection there in that space. So that low ticket space, and then the platform speaking. And then I think at some point what's going to happen is there's going to be something in the middle. And I really am going to find a way to have a one-on-one relationship with people in coaching, but that's not for now. I'm going to take some of my time back right now.
Man, I love this. There's so many ways I can go. What would be the title of your keynote if there's one that you're like, man, I'm ready to do it tomorrow?
Yet. That would be it. Yet. Yeah.
Okay. So, fill me in more.
Yeah. In my house, we don't say any word that ends in N''T. Can't, won't, shouldn't, wouldn't, couldn't. And if we do, then we're trained to follow it up with the word yet.
Yeah.
So it's this thing of it's the simplest way ever to open a closed door, right? If you say out loud, like, man, I'm fucking grinding right now. I can't 10X my business right now when I'm grinding as hard as I am. I'll be like, wait. I can't yet. And yet I just closed a door. I can't is a closed door. Yet is just one single word that reopens a door. So that's, and I actually asked my son, Royce, about 3 years ago, hey, of everything that we've ever talked about, of any of the lessons I've ever taught you, if I was going to write a book, what would you title it? And he said, that's easy. Yet. He goes, it's the best piece of advice you've ever given me. So on the spot, that's what it would be.
That's amazing. Yeah. So you mentioned freedom, and that's kind of what you want to help encourage other people to achieve. Are we talking financial freedom so they have options, or kind of fill me in on what that freedom word means to you?
Yeah, I mean, look, freedom's different for everybody. I mean, right now, if you have a corporate job and you're working 60 hours a week and you're worth more, freedom might just be the ability to make your own decisions, right? I want to be able to decide when I come to work and when I go home. I'm a badass. I'm going to get it done. You know what I mean? But like, I just want the ability to choose, right? I mean, freedom of choice is a huge, huge thing for people. I've realized that. In fact, one of the things I said to my dad when he asked me, like, how are you coming to terms with selling the business, for all your people? And I said, Dad, I'm not forcing anybody to do anything. I'm just opening the birdcage, right? And it's like there's a lot of people that came to work for me every single day that I know without them telling me they had an obligatory relationship with me. They love me. They care about me. They know that I've created a great place for them to come to work. And so they've chosen to stay locked in a birdcage, right? And be out of obligation. And as soon as I open up the birdcage, you can stay if you want, but you can also go out on that little bridge and you can flap your wings and see if you want to try something new and fly away. So freedom might just be choice for some. I love to work. So freedom for me is not working. Freedom for me is really about freedom of design and freedom of creative self-expression. That's a huge thing for me, right? I need to be able to dress the way I want to dress, say what I want to say. One of the biggest inhibitors in owning a business for me, especially a business where as real estate salespeople, we're taught to be very optically accessible. Social media and billboards and newspapers and postcards and like your face and your name and all this stuff. People want to go and research you. So they want to go to your social media. They want to go to your website and all these things. I can't really say everything I want to say in the world. And I have big opinions, and I have big opinions that I think could shape the world. I really do. But I couldn't say them because, an opinion might land on one side of the fence or the other side of the fence, or I might play neutral and people think I'm being weak because I'm taking a neutral stance. And so I had to quiet my voice in a lot of ways that I otherwise didn't want to. And for me, one of the biggest things would be creative self-expression. I want to be able to just be who I am, how I want to be, when I want to be, express the way I want to express. And if you want to play my game, get on that train. It is going to be a good train to ride, I promise. But if you don't, there's going to be a really clear line in the sand that you don't want to participate. And I'm totally okay with that because it saves me from having to waste time that I have to give away to people who only want to play a part-time game. After that, certainly the finance. Look, I think money, this is an opinion. Money to me is just a resource to get more of what you want. That's it. Okay. So the definition, money is like, I want more money. Great. My first question is why? If you want more for the sake of more, good luck. You're outrunning a bear. I've played that game and the bear is going to catch you. At some point, you're going to be like, I made 100 grand, 200 grand, 500 grand, $1 million. I guarantee all your 7-figure earners that watch this, they're going to know what I say. When you make $1 million for the first time, it's as uneventful. It's more uneventful than you can possibly imagine. And by the way, I've never made 10 million in a year, right? But if someone's going to make 10 million in a year, guess what? I bet it's less eventful than making your first million, right? So it's this thing of, and the reason is because there's no destination, right? For me, I always have to start with the question of what's enough, right? What is enough? And then I'm going to go strive for enough. And when I get there, I'll reevaluate. And then I can update the contract or I can stay where I'm at, generally speaking. I mean, that's impossible for me. And what I mean by that, stay where I'm at, is if I get to enough financially, I get to enough from a freedom perspective, then for me, it's going to be health and wellness, relationship, communication, philanthropy. There's going to be something that I'm going to be growing into and striving for. But that freedom question really is relative for most. A lot of what I teach when I help people approach the conversation of freedom is really starting with a very customized process of what is it that you want, and then backing them into the method of getting where they want to go. That one for me is really creative self-expression, right? Right now, I love to creative write. One of your questions that you had asked me early on was like, what's something people don't know about you? And for me, it's that I love creative writing. For about 1.5 years, I composed an email, a long email every morning to the brokerage that was my life lesson from the day before. The really cool thing about this was that it made me extract lessons every day, right? So I'd be like, well, that's my lesson for the day. So I was awake to what was happening in my day, but then it gave me an opportunity to be really vulnerable with the agents too and be like, hey, yesterday I was crapped out and here's how I dug myself out of a hole, or here's how I realized I allowed myself to get crapped out, or man, here's the value of communication with your partner and being vulnerable. I was really crapped out. I didn't want to bring her into it, but she just kept pressing because she knew I wasn't feeling well. Like, it's this type of dialogue that I could carry through those emails. And it really created depth of connection. And I really learned that I had a bit of a skill for writing. Now, I haven't deployed it in any way, but I love doing it. At some point, that's going to become part of my daily routine for me, that hopefully will create an impact in others' lives and probably bring them into the other businesses that I'll create and things like that. But that creative self-expression is the anchor to my freedom.
So we got a book coming soon. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, we'll see. Right now, I've not made the time. I don't. Did you see me correct? No N apostrophe.
I saw your face tensed up. You're like, oh.
That's it. No, we don't say it. So I said, I don't. Not true. I haven't made the time. for a book yet. So, but yet, did you see? I can't even. It's in my language now. I'm programmed. I just won't allow myself to say I can't do something. But it's coming. It'll happen.
It's so funny because I've shifted my thought process about time. We're talking about time right now, and it's just like that's not a priority right now.
That's right.
That's what I always have to like switch my brain to think. You mentioned creative self-expression, and I think it's hitting home with so many people, especially those people like me who was in the corporate job, and there were so many things I couldn't do. I had to do suit and tie. I felt like I couldn't grow my hair out and just had fun. So I want to ask you this. Green polka dots. Are we bringing that back, Ryan? Are we doing the green polka dots on the hair?
Let's go. It's funny. You took that out of my mind when I was talking about it. I kind of went like down. It's the first thing I thought about. I mean, when I was a teenager, I mean, I was into punk rock music. I was I was literally skate punk, and I had a buzz cut, and I had green polka dots in my hair. We took a toilet paper roll and cut like a 1-inch little thing of the toilet paper roll and used that as the stencil, bleached these spots in my hair and then colored them in green. I had earrings, I had big tattoos. It was just another part. But the other thing is that, I was straight edge. For people who understand the music scene, I wasn't straight edge that way. I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, I didn't chew tobacco, I didn't party. So I was like, I had ambition, but I also was like, I am me. Right. I wasn't willing to really conform to anybody's way of life. And I think that part of me conditioned me to be able to accept judgment without much concern, because even then, I was well mannered, as my mom said. I'd go to my friend's house and it was Mr. and Mrs. Prideaux, and, thank you for having me. And can I help do the dishes? And yet I had 5 earrings and big tattoos and green polka dots in my hair. And from the outside looking in, if I was walking down the street, you might point, make an assumption about me. If I go to a country club today and have swim trunks on and everyone sees big tattoos, rest assured, people are like, who did he come with? It must be someone's brother. You know what I mean? And none of that stuff bothers me because people don't know me. You know what I mean? I have people come up to me every day. Hey man, I bet you met your buddy, Johnny. He said you guys are best buds. I'm like, Johnny who? Johnny Smith, like, Johnny Smith, like I don't have any Johnny Smith in my phone. He works at like that kind of thing. And there's people like really take it upon themselves to think that they know people. I've probably been out to dinner 5 times in the last 5 months. I don't go out much. My social life is next to nil. I spend a lot of time at home with my wife and my kids. I'll say, it just feels good to say it that way. But yeah, I mean, nobody knows me unless you're in my house. You know what I mean? And so, polka dots, they might come back.
Might come back? I love it. What about the earrings? The earrings too?
No earrings. Earrings are out.
All right.
Yeah, I went and relived it the other night. I took my 16, it'll be 17 in October next month, to Green Day a week ago. And I got emotional. It was actually the night that it was the Wednesday last week. So it was the day after the business closed. And man, I played that original Green Day Dookie album like over and over and over and over, like a million times. I knew by the way, they played the album start to finish. I knew every drum stroke before every song started. And I was super emotional. It was thinking back to that kid with green polka dots. I cried. My son had his arm around me. He had his arm around me. And was like, what's wrong, Dad? And I was like, nothing, dude. Nothing's wrong. I can't believe I'm here. I remember that green polka dot skater kid trying to struggle and find his way in life, and sold a business yesterday, have a little bit of scratch to get us by for the next year or two. And I'm at this concert with my son singing every song with him. It was such an interesting, flash of life before my eyes. It was pretty freaky. So yeah, maybe for old time's sake, I'll have him put green polka dots in my hair, and we'll just keep it real.
I love that, man. I can just obviously sense and feel the emotion that's going through you right now, just kind of reliving those experiences as a kid. Do you feel like, because I feel like so many people, we have these childlike dreams, and then we start growing up and everything needs to be realistic, and we kind of go away from that. But I remember you saying in a podcast, you're kind of tapping back into that creative aspect and being that kid with green polka dots, being that kid with earrings, and just getting back in that creative, mode. I feel like that's where you're at right now.
For sure. Yeah, I got angry. I realized that social conditioning stole that kid out of me. And it was my fault, right? I decided to play a game. It was like, I'm a real estate agent. And they're like, oh, you have to get an email address that ends in sellsarizona.com. And, I've got to put a polo shirt on. And no way, if you want to be in luxury, you got to wear a suit. And then, like, if you don't do that, you have to have a Rolex. And if you want to do that, you have to have a European car. And if you don't do that, then you got to be on a billboard and you got to and it was all these things. And then when you're around the people, you have to talk like this and act like this. And it's all part of making money and being successful. And then you wake up one day and you're like, I'm not happy. And it's like, why am I not happy? And it's like, because I'm scared to put green polka dots in my hair. Like I'm not allowed to wear a t-shirt, and I want to wear a t-shirt. I don't feel comfortable in this suit that I'm wearing. Like, this isn't me. I don't like the car I drive. Brakes cost more than I thought I would ever spend on a whole car. And it's stupid. It doesn't make any sense for me. Like, it just didn't make sense. It wasn't who I was. And if you can't tell, I got a little bit angry. It was like, I'm not doing it anymore. Like, this is time. I'm going to take the ultimate walk. I'm going to change everything, and we're going to see what's going to happen. I'm going to go be who I know I am in the world. People talk about being in alignment with other people, and it's like, before you can do that, you got to get aligned with yourself. And for me, it was like, it was really this thing of like, I'm going to get aligned with myself. I'm no more external. I'm not living life for anybody else or on anybody else's terms. And I'm going to have to make the hardest decisions of my life that are going to come with a lot of judgment. They're going to come with a lot of risk. And it's going to set me up. And then I got to walk the walk. And it becomes the new part of my story. I'm not the kid that grew up poor anymore and rose from the ashes. It's the guy who said, you know what? I want to look at everybody else who's 45 years old in the camera and go, all the excuses you're making about time or waiting for your kids to graduate from college or, but I love my house or I'm out of shape and I don't know how I would get started again. My kids, I didn't wait for them to go to college. One's a junior, one's in 8th grade. I certainly could have waited. There's I have all the same excuses as everybody else. I really have no landing pad. I know what my skills are, but I don't have a landing pad. I don't have something that's making a little bit of money over there that can replace my income. I could sell real estate deals, but if I'm being real, that ship has sailed too, right? For me, I mean, it's really not what I'm supposed to be doing in the world. And it's the ultimate sacrifice because it's what in large part paid my bills for the longest amount of time. So it's really this time right now where it's like, ask me what I want to be when I grow up. I mean, that was the first time that I said to you exactly that way. Keynote speaker, small ticket, like that was the most defined message or response that I've been able to give at this point. And that's going to continue to refine. And when it's crystal clear, then it's just going to be taking the action steps to go do it. I'm not worried because I've relinquished the majority of the stuff that's been holding me back. I just had to take that first step.
So powerful. And I appreciate you just being vulnerable and transparent. I know a lot of people will try to come on a podcast or even just in social media in general. I can just tell when I watch your content, that's not you to just show highlight reels.
No.
Everyone just wants to show the highlight, but where we learn the most is from the failure, from us just figuring things out. So I appreciate that, man. And 100%. What I actually want to do is have you talk to the person who's just getting into real estate. And what would you tell them as an agent that would be different from what you try to do by conforming to all these social norms?
First thing I would say is you are in the greatest opportunity of your life. It is a ceilingless business. And irrespective of what brand I'm with, I'm going to say there are opportunities out there in the business where you can grow a micro or macro brokerage underneath an umbrella internationally. I have a friend who has teams in 8 countries and operates out of Portland, Oregon, right? So there's an opportunity to really grow a gigantic business without having to bear the burden of most of the minutia that comes with business ownership. So it's a ceilingless business. It's just going to be how good do you want to get at running a business and how hard are you willing to work, really? The next thing would be define very, 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 very clearly what it is that you want. Because whatever it is that you want, I had a coaching student that I worked with the other day, and she said, I want to sell 100 homes. That's my goal for the next year. And I said, great, why? And she said, because I want to help. She goes, I haven't defined the answer really, but I want to be the pivotal moment in families' lives where they create shelter. And I said, okay, that sounds good, but let me ask you this question. Out of 100 people in the street, just you out in the street, how many of those people are grateful? They have gratitude. She was like, maybe like 50%. And I was like, okay, so that means you have to sell 200 homes in order to get 100 people that are going to be grateful for your service. Isn't that right? She goes, yeah. So I go, I don't quite believe your story that you're doing it to be a pivotal moment in 100 families' lives. Let me ask you another question. Have all the clients you worked with told you you were a pivotal moment in their life? She said, well, no. I mean, they're happy, but they've not told me that. And I said, great. Let's do this. What do you want in your life? Like, really, tell me right now, what are you most excited about wanting in your life? And she said, I want to be a conscious mom. Okay. So I told her to close her eyes and picture herself holding her child, okay, and being conscious, picturing it and feeling it. And I said, okay, so now what's the first resource you have to consider? And she said, time. That's the first thing. I have limited time. Great. How many hours a day can you work? And she's like, well, I could probably afford a nanny for like 4 hours a day right now. And I'm like, great. So you have 4 hours a day to work and that's it. How much money do you need to make to live a good life? That's what I said to her. Because your number one thing you want is not to be rich. The number one thing you want is to be a conscious mom. So you've clearly identified what you want. She said, yes. I said, okay, so now with 4 hours, what are you going to do? I said, to live a good life. She said, 300 grand. I said, okay, great, which is far less than what she wanted to make at the start of the coaching session. So I said, conscious mom, 300 grand. Yes. We worked out the amount of deals. And in the next 3 years between today and then, when she wants to have a child, she needs to figure out how to do 2.5 more deals, 2.5 more deals a year in her current model to make the money she needs to make so she can be a conscious mom. Now we took 4 hours a day and you have 3 years to identify how you can make that 4 hours a day the best 4 hours in your life so you can be a conscious mom. How hard does this sound? And she's like, well, I think I could do it by the end of the year. I think I could figure this out. And I'm like, of course. The reason I go down that whole thing with new agents starting out is, do you see how quickly we went from make more? Make more is an endless trap. Okay. The trap never, ever ends because you're going to increase your lifestyle and there's several things that are going to happen along the way. But as soon as you define the thing where you can close your eyes and you can picture what it feels like, it defines the activity. It defines what it is you need to do. The first thing it will define if it's a massive goal is what you need to give away, not what you need to do more of, right? So that next thing about definition. And then the other thing is just start playing with get some of your commissions out of your bank account, right? Invest somewhere. I mean, I'm of course, real estate's all I know. So investing in real estate worked for me. Right now, it's very difficult to cash flow, right? Unless you can create, a deal on terms. So really the benefit might be in your respective submarket would be that you're just using your tenant's money to pay down the principal. That's it. And that could be a great thing with some appreciation. But play around. I mean, there could be take a little bit and siphon it out to a hard money lender to get some good returns. There's a little more risk with that. But if you're going to just get the money out of your bank account, otherwise you'll spend it, especially if you watch all your friends with expensive handbags on the screen, making 100 grand a year and spending 7 G's on an apartment and a handbag. Doesn't work, right? So get some money out of your bank account. Celebrate your wins. Don't be afraid to stop a little bit and smell the roses every once in a while. And then the last thing is the biggest challenge in my life was divorce. And it was my fault in effect, right? I can't own 100% of the responsibility because it takes two to dance. But certainly in hindsight, my decisions around business, and I'm going to say this to the 35-year-old male on the screen that was like me at that time, that was grinding and creating more money than we could have ever imagined in our lives, and saying things to my wife like, we picked this life, if you don't want it, we can do it different. Hey, if you want me to go get a job at Circle K and, we live off 2-3 grand a month, we can do that too. Like, these are things I really said out loud. That's a recipe for disaster. It doesn't work. And by the way, when it all comes to an end, I can tell you money will matter far less than what we think it does, because it's not about the stack. It's about what you used it to do in your life to create the things you want. So if you want a better family life, use your money to create a better family life. If you want nice things, fucking go buy them all. You know what I mean? And make more money to do it. If you want a hybrid of both, have fun with that too. But define what you want, and that'll define the financial plan.
This is such gold. I know you're listening right now, taking notes. This is not one that you want to listen to just one time. Go back, re-listen to this. I want to dive in just a little bit deeper on the first-time real estate agent, which I think you had such a great concept of, why are you even doing this? What do you actually want? Not what everyone else is saying they want. Stop copying other people and figure out what you want and then reverse engineer it, like you just said. Beautifully said. I love that example. What about, actually, this is a question that a lot of people hate me for this. You ready?
I'm
I
ready.
think if someone is an investor looking to start investing, they should never work with a real estate agent that doesn't even own a home. Only work with agents that actually are also investors. Would you agree or not?
Yeah. By the
Okay.
way,
Well,
I have the same problem with people who are real estate agents who don't own a home representing a retail buyer and seller. Like for me, it's like if you've never been through the process of buying a, I mean, look, this my mentor used to say, learn from a practitioner, not a theorist. Okay. So you don't want to learn from people who are operating in theory, especially when we all say out loud, this is the biggest investment of your life, right? So for me, if you're making the biggest investment of your life, would you go to a heart surgeon who's like, I played that game where you get the little basket out of the thing and the deal. I mean, I've never really done heart surgery, but I read a lot of books on it and done it. No, that's not. Would you go to a financial planner? Think about this, because real estate and stocks are the same thing. It's just a different stock, right? It's a different mechanism for increasing wealth. So would you go to a financial planner and be like, hey, so I have $100,000 I want to invest, and I think I want to give it to a financial planner to buy stock. How much stock do you have? And they're like, none. Great. Why not? How much insurance, how much secondary insurance do you have? None. Why not? Well, because I can't afford it. Then how do you know what the benefits are? Right? Because you read it in a pamphlet that you're going to send me home with? That doesn't work. No. So do people do it every day? Do I have really smart real estate salespeople who deliver a good service to their clients, because they have leadership who can help them navigate that process? Sure, I do. Everybody had to start out somewhere. If you were going to do it, here's what I would say. For the people out there who are like, man, you started somewhere, I would say, you're right. I had to do my first deal with somebody along the way. So you would have never gotten started if you didn't. My thing was, I had a mentor. So what I had is, if I was, the wide receiver that was going to go out and catch a ball for you, I had a quarterback that was going to throw me the pass. And if things got sketchy, I could go back to the quarterback and be like, hey, what do we do here? What I see happening a lot out there is that people are trusting that first level, an agent, that first level wholesaler that swears that they ran comps on Zillow and this is a good deal. That's what's going on. No. But what I would ask is, I like you. I like your style. Here's what's really important about people that are starting out. They're trustworthy. Okay. So there's something, they're trustworthy, right? Because every client opportunity means the world to them. There's a lot of sharks out there that have been doing it forever. They don't need your paycheck. So for them, it's got to be on their terms. That isn't as trustworthy, right? So there's something great about a new upstart, which is that they're trustworthy. But what I want to know is, who's their support staff? Who's their team lead? Who's their superior? Who's their senior that I can go to, that if shit gets tough, I can go to them and say, hey, I need someone to step in here, but I want to utilize the newbie's skills because I can trust that they're going to fight for me. They need this paycheck. That's important. So some value both ways, but overall, generally speaking, just walking into a blind relationship with a brand new upstart and trying to invest my money with them, no chance.
totally agree. I even think there's people that are not even new, but they've been doing it for years and they still don't own real estate. I'm like, guys, why would you work with that person?
I mean, how can I sell you on something that I don't believe in myself? Is when I worked at Mercedes-Benz in a past life, and the first thing they made us do was buy a car. And it wasn't because they needed the sale. It's just like, you need to drive around. You need to know what it feels like to drive in one of these cars. When someone says, do you own one? You say yes. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. So yeah, absolutely. I think it's a key component.
Last question on this topic, this has been the fastest 48 minutes of my life, Brian. We could talk for another 2 hours, I feel like.
For sure.
So niche, or does it not matter to niche down and be like, hey, I want to do luxury. I want to do more just, the everyday family, residential, commercial, etc. What's your thoughts on that?
Goes back to that original question of, do you know what you want? Right? I mean, all questions are going to go back there. All questions lead back to starting with where you want. Right? That's it. I mean, because that answers the question. If it's like, I just want to make more, right? And it could be your marketing style. You know what I mean? If you use social media as your marketing style, then it's one of those things where you're going to shotgun blast out to the world and wait for people to respond. And if someone in, Glendale responds and someone in Queen Creek responds, and you want to do those deals, we'll go do those deals. You know what I mean? If want to be, if you're an investor and you're looking for specific kinds of deals, specific cash flow opportunities, there might be different submarkets that work, so you can work all over the valley.
Well, Brian, as we wrap up, man, like there's literally so many more questions I want to ask you and talk to you. Can we do a part two at some point?
Love it. Would love to, honestly. And it's cool too,
Awesome.
because like I can even feel, I'm fortunate to have, really successful guys like you that have great audiences, be able to come and say, hey man, we just share your heart with me. And what's cool right now is I can tell my face is flush, like I'm red, which is cool. And like my body's warm. And it's because there's like new energy in my body right now. Right. It's like, I just feel like I'm a child again, if I feel reborn, so to speak. And so there's this thing of like, whatever part two looks like, there's going to be a whole new set of like, how are you doing today compared to where you were 4 weeks ago? I mean, it's going to be different. So I would love to, man, if it works out, would love to be a part of it.
Amazing. We'll have to do it in person as well. So last thing, our community, the Growth House, we're a go-giving community. We want to provide value to you. You just provided value to us for an hour. It's like amazing. We appreciate it. And so with that being said, if anyone reaches out, Brian, and says, hey, can I pick your brain or take you for coffee? Ignore them. I don't know them. You're not my people. So what we do is we want to provide value up front to you. So it could be something small. It could be something big. It could be a resource, a connection. What's something that someone could reach out, or even myself, and help provide value to you before we ask for anything?
Man, I'm looking for any company leaders or owners who are looking for somebody to come into their ecosystem and shake the room. I'm looking for keynote opportunities. Even if somebody just got my name, and I'm in that space right now where I want an interview to fail, right? I want to go get interviewed for the opportunity of my lifetime and have someone say, you're almost there, but you're not a guy yet. So I can figure out why. I'm excited to fail. Like I want to get in big spaces right now, and it's time for a new network. But for me right now, if I told you I would pay a big ticket to stand on stage and change people's lives, and there's an opportunity for me to do it and get compensated for it, man, that's the opportunity I'm looking for. That's how you can help me, and just spreading the word that I'm alive, awake, on fire, and ready to go.
Amazing. And anyone listening knows that you're on fire right now. Like we feel the energy. Like I'm excited. I'm about to stand up for the next podcast. I can't even sit down anymore. Brian, we're going to put all the links in the show description, but what's the best way that you want people to reach out to you? Is it through Instagram?
It is. Yep. Real simple. Brian with an I, Brian, middle initial C, North, North, Brian C. North at Instagram. And I run my page in terms of like my DMs. So if you guys, if anybody's in there and they want to come fire off any questions for me, I'm the one that's answering your questions. Would love to get to know you guys better, and just excited to build the group.
Brian, it's a pleasure. Our motto is you become who you surround yourself with. And I'm excited to hang out with you for the last hour and, get to know you more. So I appreciate you, Brian.
Right back at you, my man. Thanks so much for the time and the invite. It meant a lot.